Chapter 1. The Russian Tank and the Battle of 24 Drones, the beginning of a thrilling story. In the history of war, we have heard too much about classic battles, life and death confrontations between tanks and anti-tank guns, between aircraft and anti-aircraft nets, or between warships and torpedoes. However, modern times have brought a new dish to war: unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, a small but powerful weapon capable of changing the situation of an entire battlefield. And recently, the world was surprised when a Russian tank survived after being attacked consecutively by 24 UAVs. Yes, you heard right. 24 UAVs attacked a single tank one after another, and it was still able to roll. To understand the dramatic level of this story, we need to imagine that in modern warfare, a UAV costing only a few thousand US can destroy a tank worth millions of US dollars. The old egg to stone situation has now changed. UAVs are the small stones that can make the steel giant kneel. But in this case, not just one, not just two, but up to 24 stones were thrown continuously, but the steel giant still refused to fall. It sounds like a Hollywood movie, but it happened in real life. 1. A tank and 24 times being beaten. According to international sources, this Russian tank was attacked by a suicide UAV during a battle in the Ukrainian battlefield. These UAVs swooped down from above, aiming straight at the roof and sides, which are the tank's weakest points. But the strange thing is that after each explosion, the tank still tried to crawl away, black smoke billowing, armor scratched, but the engine still roared. Imagine that scene. It's like being swarmed by bees, stung 24 times in a row, and you still managed to walk home. It was painful, angry, and respectful. The tank driver must have thought when he stepped outside, this world really needs to rewrite textbooks about tanks. 2. Why can Russian tanks survive? This is a question many experts have asked. There are 3 possibilities. First, the design of Russian tanks. Russian tanks, especially the T-72 or T-90 models, are often upgraded with explosive reactive armor, ERA, and anti-UAV iron cages. These layers act as a double-layer armor. The outer layer explodes to neutralize the destructive force. The inner layer absorbs the shock. This is part of the reason why it did not go away immediately. Second, the quality of the UAV. Not all UAVs have the same powerful warhead. Perhaps out of 24 UAVs, many only caused local damage, not enough to penetrate the entire armor of the tank. They are like stainless steel mosquito bites, painful but not fatal. Third, pure luck. War sometimes is like a game of dice. Sometimes a shell accidentally penetrates a vital spot and causes the tank to explode. Sometimes 24 shells fly in at the same time, but all hit the flesh and not the heart. And this time, the Russian tank is in that lucky group. 4. Link to history, past and present. If we look back at history, this story reminds us of battles where seemingly invincible weapons were defeated, or vice versa. For example, in World War II, the German Tiger tank was considered a steel monster that was difficult to destroy. However, it was still defeated by anti-tank guns and even by infantry with explosives attached to the chassis. In the Vietnam War, the American bombs dropped so much that people called it plowing over and over like digging the ground. However, there were simple shelters made of bamboo and earth that still stood firm. That was the durability of the design and also the element of luck. So this Russian tank is like a living proof of the lesson: nothing is completely invincible, but nothing is easy to destroy. 5. A bit of humor in the tragedy. Speaking of this, we also have to smile bitterly. A UAV costs as much as an old car, while a tank costs as much as an entire villa. But sometimes old cars eat villas, but not this time. Perhaps the Russians will joke with each other. Our tanks now meet the ISO standard to withstand 24 UAVs in a row. Chapter 3: Meaning, Lessons, and Reflections from the Story of the Immortal Russian Tank. After we have gone through a detailed analysis of the events, causes, military and psychological impacts of the incident in which a Russian tank survived 24 drone attacks, it is time to look at this event in a larger picture. 1. Strategic significance. In reality, the fact that a tank still proudly survives dozens of UAV attacks is not simply a matter of luck. It exposes 3 core points in modern warfare: the durability of old but improved technology. The T-90, T-72, or Russian tank variants were born in the last century, but have been modernized with explosive reactive armor, jamming systems, and thick composite armor. Cheap UAVs cannot easily penetrate. The technological gap between the attacker and the defender. When small UAVs are not powerful enough to destroy, the Ukrainian army must consider upgrading or combining more forms of attack. Propaganda message. A miraculously surviving tank can create a strong morale boost for Russian soldiers while making the enemy wary. For example, imagine a boxer being punched 24 times in a row and still standing. Whether the boxer wins or not, the audience still applauds because of his rare toughness. The same goes for Russian tanks. Although they may not be invincible on the battlefield, their recent performance has made the whole world talk. 2. Military lessons. From this story, we can draw at least 4 important lessons. Don't underestimate old weapons. What seems outdated can sometimes exert its power under the right conditions. War is not only about technology, but also about psychology. This event created a spiritual effect that went far beyond the number 24 UAVs. UAVs are not omnipotent. They are effective when fighting in swarms, targeting weak targets, but against opponents with multi-layered armor, their effectiveness is greatly reduced. When offensive and defensive technology compete, whoever is slow will lose. Ukraine is forced to find a UAV with more destructive power, while Russia will certainly boast about the toughness of its tanks to strengthen its image. Humanistic and humorous reflection. If we look outside the battlefield, this story also reflects a message in everyday life. In life, sometimes we are attacked continuously by 24 difficulties, from finances, health, to relationships. But if we have a layer of armor such as perseverance, faith, or simply Russian tank-like stubbornness, we can still stand firm. An Edison even jokingly commented that Russian tanks should be used to make commercials for rice cooker manufacturers because their durability is unmatched. It sounds both humorous and somewhat reminiscent of the famous durability of Made in Russia appliances. 4. Conclusion, summary, and call to action. In short, the Russian tank that survived 24 UAVs is not only a shocking military event, but also a symbol of the uncompromising confrontation between offensive and defensive technology, the power of propaganda and psychology in war, the lesson that stubbornness is sometimes an effective strategy. For those interested in history and war, this is a vivid example showing that the battlefield is not only decided by guns and bullets, but also by strange and unbelievable stories enough to enter military textbooks in the future. If you find this analysis interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to History and War channel so that we can continue to bring you the most fascinating stories from history and world wars. Each of your clicks is a motivation to help us survive against a series of UAVs called competition on social networks.